time she walked away from me. No one likes you when you're 23.
Hi, I'm Philomena, and this is My 20s Can Suck It, a review of my 20s, 23. I don't know what my life would be like if some of those big choices that I made when I was 23 didn't happen. And that's about the time that she walked away from me, and no one likes you when you're 23. And you know who didn't like me when I was 23? God. And let's talk about it. I turned 23 while I was doing rotating rep. I bought myself a cake that said, no one likes you when you're 23 because I'm quirky. Maybe I shouldn't have done that because it was a really bad, horrible, no good year. I kind of had started casually dating someone I met on Tinder who eventually became my boyfriend. In retrospect, I feel like was more of a situation of love bombing than just bomb love. Because of that, a lot of the things that happened later on, I didn't recognize as a trigger warning, abuse, as emotional abuse.
Oh, but he said all these things. He loved me so much. He loves me so much.
Had to move back to the Bay Area, at which point I needed to find some roommates. And San Jose is like the most expensive place to live in the country. And I was just trying to find like a room somewhere with some people that weren't crazy. And that didn't happen because I found some very crazy roommates that were bad, traumatic. A couple fought endlessly. Had I known more about weed, I would have known that it was a red flag that they exclusively dabbed. Not this dab, like the other kind. Like exclusively dabbed, like that's a little weird. Like something's messed up. And it was. And they fought constantly, verbally abusive, physically abusive. I had to constantly call the cops. I felt so triggered and unsafe. I would just stay in my room all day when I wasn't at work. I think I only had 3 jobs at this point. And so when I was not at my 3 jobs, I would just like be on my bed. I was so focused on just getting through the day that I didn't really have ability to reach out and to go anywhere and to look for other apartments and that kind of thing. I accepted it. And at that point, that January, I very rapidly gained weight. I think I gained about 45 or 50 pounds in the span of a month, which is a lot. My ex had a lot of opinions about my body. So in the first few months of my relationship,
Would say things like, oh, if you were skinny, you'd be so hot. Or like, oh yeah, if you just lose a little bit of weight, I know you'll get all those parts you want.
that was what I think I had always feared was true. If I was just a little bit smaller, then things would come so much more easily. And then it was the person I loved more than anything, and the person that I trusted and talked to every day. He was validating that fear. So he started kind of, I'll say like monitoring my activities.
And it was always kind of under this guise of like, oh, you know, like if you just lose weight, you'll be even better.
He wanted to know how often I was working out and going to the gym, and he wanted me to send pictures of myself like sweating at the gym, and he wanted to like know what I had to eat today. At the time, I think I was just like, well, yeah, like, you know, like I love him and he's asking these things, and that was something that I don't think anyone had ever asked before. And so I just really thought he was interested in my well-being and me, and it turns out that that was not really the case. It was a controlling thing. And then eventually, like, if I would, you know, be like, oh, I went to the gym today, he'd be like, well, but did you even sweat? Like, did you even sweat that much? It's like, oh yeah, I had a Starbucks coffee today. He's like, you know, those are just like all sugar. And it was just like everything from diet culture being regurgitated directly at me by the person I love the most. Having me hear all these things from him before the weight gain, when the weight gain happened, I felt extra out of control. I was just in such panic. Nothing I did ever was good enough. That's really it, is that nothing I did was ever good enough. And I recognize now that like I was just in a very unsafe place. I also didn't have a lot of people that I was reaching out to at that time. I was becoming very insular with him. And at that point we were long distance. Like I was living in San Jose, he was living in Sacramento. And so I put that burden on myself and on my physical appearance. So I had really bad roommates, and then all of a sudden they decided to end the lease. And at that point, like a family friend reached out and she was like, oh my God, come live with me. I was like, oh my gosh, great. I ended up moving in with her. I essentially got kicked out in the middle of the night to no fault of my own. And I was displaced. I was homeless, trying to stay with family friends and on couches and sometimes in a Motel 6. And at that point, the narrative that I was receiving from the people around me was like, this isn't a big deal, like get over it, you're fine. What's wild is that I was a real like horrible situation, losing housing, you know, like a general human need. And at the same time, I was like going to bar classes. I was going to Pilates classes and like using their showers because they didn't have a shower. And I was, you know, going to like rich parts of Palo Alto and teaching children. I directed like over 100 children in Alice in Wonderland Jr. And if you want to know if there should be that many children in Alice in Wonderland Jr., the answer is no. So I felt like it was something that was so shameful, so overwhelming. I didn't really talk about it to almost anyone. I was, you know, homeless for a couple months until eventually made the decision I feel like I had to, which was that I should move in with my boyfriend. And so I moved to Sacramento. There was a lot of things that I didn't realize were not okay with him and the way that he was treating me. And those things, you know, didn't get better. They got worse. They got worse and worse and worse. I think about like, if someone had just offered me like, or been willing to lend me like $400 or something like that, you know, like a lot of money, but not a lot of money, I might have been able to make a different choice. I so wish I had the capacity to get help in a different way, because it was really horrible. And it was something that I held a lot of shame about for a very long time. I feel like the narrative with being unhoused is that like, you did something really wrong and that's how you got there. And like, here I was, I had several jobs and they were like good people jobs. I was like teaching children, you know, working with special needs kids. And I was doing what I felt like were good people things, and then this really bad thing happened. And there just wasn't anywhere for me to fall. But I have to remind myself that I was doing the best that I could with the information that I had and the tools that I had. So I was in my first Sondheim musical when I was 23. I was in a really great production of Assassins. Not Creed, just Assassins.
I am a Manson girl. I am Squeaky Fromm. I am
art. I remember I went in and I sang Everybody Loves Louie. Ooh, this has some funny parts. This has some like dramatic parts. Ooh, this beat change is gonna change the world. I got an email from the director and she was like, hey Philomena, I noticed you didn't put Sarah Jane Moore on your audition form. And I was like, yeah, I didn't think it was an option because of the age difference. Because she is, I think, 45 and I was 22. And she was like, I think I'm gonna call you back for that. And I was like, okay. Went to the callback and the other people there were like age appropriate in their 40s. And I ended up getting that part. And I think I was actually younger than the girl playing Squeaky Fromm. I really wish I would have gotten to like sing more. Sarah doesn't sing that much. She just has her like little...
Her spit where she goes.
That was actually the last musical I've performed in. No One Likes You When You're 23. This was a hard one. Thanks for sticking around. If you're in the greater Los Angeles area, come to my birthday show. July 8th, 8 to 10 p.m. at the Broadwater Black Box. There'll be lots of comedy, probably not this much crying, but who knows? Anyway, my 20s can suck it, especially 23. 23, you can eat a big old bag. The Instagram deep dive has been a fun section of this, but to be honest, I looked and I have one photograph from when I was 23. It's my dog. It's Sadie. She's so cute. It says, happy to spend mommy's day with my firstborn baby. And then she died. Well, technically I killed her. I think that that's really messed up. Is that like you have to pay. Like I paid $800 to have to put my dog down because she was sick. Like that's messed up.